Welcome back. When is a Republican not a Republican? When he or she decides the party no longer speaks to his or her interests or beliefs. And the very same thing goes for the Democrats. Even Democrats who served in high elected office and aspired to the highest office of all. Democrats like this one, Tulsi Gabbard. Today, the former congresswoman from Hawaii announced that she is bolting the Democratic Party, which she pretty much declared war on after losing the Democratic presidential nomination back in 2020. She endorsed Joe Biden, but then she turned on him, and she turned up as a Fox News contributor and sometimes fill-in for Tucker Carlson. But while her story may be unique, her path most definitely is not. Millions of voters have shed their party labels to the point that independents, the neither nor camp, are this country's biggest voting bloc of all. So welcome. Nice to have you. NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton joins me now with his new reporting on all of this. And Brian, I've been watching a lot of these polls, like, trying to count the independents among us. And some of them have, the independent bloc as high as 60% of all the voters out there. What have you been finding?
Yeah, it's definitely growing. And it's interesting, the Republicans and the Democrats get so much attention, but you mentioned it. I mean, there are so many independents out there. I think I've had the best assignment with our political coverage over the last couple months because my job has been mainly to go out to the battleground states and to talk to real people, real voters, not the politicians. And the thing that I keep hearing over and over again from people is that they don't like Republicans, and they also don't like Democrats. And maybe they agree with a few things on the Democratic side and the Republican side, but at the end of the day, they view themselves as independents.
If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Former Congresswoman and 2020 presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard officially says she is leaving the Democratic Party.
I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite.
Dropping parties, changing parties, frustrated by parties. We've traveled the country talking to voters in battleground states, and it seems to be a common theme.
You were a Democrat.
Yes.
And what changed?
A lot changed.
Like Gabbard, Lydia Dominguez in Nevada told us she is now turned off by the Democrats, racializing every issue.
We're all Americans. We should consider ourselves Americans. We're not, a white, black, brown. We're Americans. We should be united in that front. That's what makes us different from the world.
In Arizona, we met Yvonne Drew, who also said she is no longer Democrat, but also doesn't identify fully with Republicans.
I think that more people need to educate themselves, and I think that you have to watch a little bit of everything and kind of just watch who takes action and what actions are being taken by our current administration. Because they say a lot of things on TV and you go, wait a minute, that's not true, because that doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. I know what I see.
According to a recent Gallup poll, 30% of Americans consider themselves Republican, 24% say they identify as Democrat, and 43% are independent. Compare that to about 2 years earlier, and the Republican numbers stay the same, but there were more Democrats and fewer independents. More Americans seem to not trust either side.
The government lies to us all the time. Ever since I was a kid, I knew the government lied. And I always knew that if I were ever to vote, I had to vote for the best liar. The one who sold me the bill of goods, right? So to me, that's what it comes down to.
And what he said there really does seem to be a common theme among people, that they just don't trust politicians in general. And in many ways, you really can't blame them, Ashleigh.
So a big question I have is are a lot of people you're talking to dumping out of their party, either Democratic or Republican Party, because of issues and platform issues and positions on issues, or integrity, the fact that they just don't like these people?
I think it's both. I think they definitely don't like the people, but the issues, especially this go around, seem to be a big deal. For example, in Pennsylvania, we met a number of women who have always been Republicans, but because of the abortion issue, they say this time, for the first time ever, they will vote Democrat. I met a number of people in Nevada, very, very passionate about immigration and the border, said they always identified as Democrat, but because of what they see happening at the border for the first time ever, they'll vote as Republican. So the issues really, really do come into play in the end.
And are people telling you from both parties when they're abandoning ship, are they telling you where they're leaning in these midterms?
It just depends. Again, different parts of the country, different things. Here in Florida, it's been fascinating. There are people who told me that they've always been Democrats. They didn't like the COVID shutdown, so they moved to Florida. They still don't really feel like Republicans, but for the first time ever, they may vote Republican this go around. I think that's what's going to be so exciting and interesting about this midterm election is there are all these variables that haven't really come into play before, and I think that's why we're covering it so closely. No one really knows how this is going to play out.
It's a nail biter. Brian Enton, thank you. Appreciate your work there in Florida. You know, it is not just the Democrats who are seeing defectors. It happens on the right side of the aisle as well. And I'm joined now by Tara Setmayer, the senior advisor for the Lincoln Project and the resident scholar at the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Also a friend. Hi, Tara. Good to have you. Question for you right out of the gate. When we talk about defectors, they do come from both parties. I think about Adam Kinzinger, who just in the last little while has been like, you know, a Republican congressman who's been endorsing Democratic candidates and is kind of just fed up with it all. So give me your take on defections. Is it different all of a sudden right now, or have we kind of always been like this?
Well, I get it. Since I was one of those defectors, I left the Republican Party in 2020 after the election, after 27 years of working in Republican politics and on conservative policies and working on Capitol Hill. So I understand. And for me, the inflection point was finally realizing that the Republicans were no longer going to stand up to Donald Trump, even if he went against the Constitution by denying the election and denying a peaceful transfer of power. We saw what happened on January 6th. So I think that me joining the ranks of the 43%, according to Gallup, of independents now in this country is just something that I've realized that more and more people have become frustrated with both parties because they feel politically homeless, because they feel as though they're not being spoken to. Now, I mean, on the Democratic side, they may have issues with the progressive left. On the Republican side, clearly, we see that there are a lot of people who have issues with the way that the party has succumbed to Donald Trump and to the election denying and the extremism that's coming out of the right, that they can no longer identify with the party. I mean, I don't know that Adam has denounced the party yet, but Congressman Denver Riggleman is one who's left the party, and there were other prominent Republicans who left the GOP because they couldn't stomach the direction it's going in, becoming such an anti-democratic party. So the two-party system, I don't think we've seen as much dissatisfaction with our two-party system as we see now. But what concerns me is the problem is the lack of the lack of confidence in our election integrity and in confidence in our governing. To me, that is very problematic for the future of our democracy.
Yeah, that's pretty upsetting stuff. That's what our foundation is, is all that in a bag of chips. I want to that point that you just said, that it's never been worse than now. I want to throw up a list of defectors in the past. And this is really just the recent past. I could go all the way back to the 70s, and there's a whole bunch more. But, here's a list of senators. I'm not sure if we can get it, but I'm going to work on it. But, out of the senators, Strom Thurmond, Harry Byrd, Richard Shelby, Jim Jeffords, Joe Lieberman, Arlen Specter, all switching parties, some one to the other, some Republican to Dem, some Dem to Republican, some into the Independent Party. And in Congress, Phil Gramm, Nathan Deal, Michael Forbes as well. Here's the question when it comes to these guys. They switch and they find their home. But for all of us out here, if we're sick of our party and we don't like the other party, now what do? It turns out there's like a massive majority out here that Dan Abrams calls the marginalized majority. And I sort of think, well, why hasn't anybody thought up and funded party number 3?
Well, we've seen that there have been efforts to form third parties, and they have failed miserably over the years just because of structurally the way our election system is set up. It is set up to
funding.
Money,
right?
Money is a big issue, but part of the reason why is because our voting system is decentralized. So you have to be able to fund the efforts in 50 states, because 50 states have 50 different ways of voting. You have some states that have open primaries, some states that don't. You have some states that have different, supervisors of elections that are elected, some are appointed. I mean, there's a lot, and the founders didn't want a centralized voting system. They also didn't want factions either. So it was little bit of a mixed bag what we ended up with. But that's part of the reason why it's been so difficult for a third party to emerge in this country, because the way it's structurally rigged against that. And I think more people are becoming frustrated by it, but they're looking to make inroads there because there are so many folks that are now joining the politically homeless like myself. But we'll see. It will have to start, but at a state-by-state level if they're going to make inroads with that. But right now, this is the system that we have. And I think one of the first most realistic places to start is to get rid of closed primaries. That's how you get the extremists.
I agree with that.
And that. We see the extremists going, what happens when we get that across the country with all these election deniers running across, in various states and localities. And that's very dangerous.
I got to wrap it there, but I want to have you back for a whole conversation about a two-party ticket, because that's another option, right? Let's talk about that another time. Tara Setmayer, good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashleigh.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.